Morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We are learning Mishnah Eruvin, Perek Dalet, Chapter 4, Mishnah Yud, Mishnah 10. Now, we had learned in yesterday's Mishnah that, or we mentioned yesterday rather, that the halach we learned previously, which was that you can actually designate a place from afar that you see, and if you're specific about the place, that you can make that your place for Shabbos without putting food down there, without going there. That is something that is only permitted for someone who is traveling or somebody who's poor. I think I missed that yesterday, that for somebody who's poor, even if they're not traveling, they would be able to designate a specific place from afar to be able to go there on Shabbos, and from there, for that to be their place for Shabbos and go further from there. This is reserved, the ability to do that is reserved for either a traveler or for someone who's poor, meaning somebody doesn't have food. Now our Mishnah is now continuing off of that. This means someone who went out to go and put down an Erev for a city that you can make an Erev to. That means you have two cities. The people in one city want to get to the other city on Shabbos. The problem is that the other city is outside of the Tchum. It's more than 2,000 cubits from the city where they are. So the story here is that they sent a person with food to put out an Erev for everyone in the city. And that would allow them to be able to go from the city to where the Erev is, and then from the Erev to the other city. They couldn't do that without an Erev, and they wanted to do that, so they sent this person to put down an Erev. But what happened is, his friend convinced him to turn back. It's too cold, it's too hot, not good for you to be outside today. And he convinced him to turn around and go back, and he never put the Erev down. So the halacha is, hu muter leilech, the shliach, the person who went out to put down the Erev, he will actually be permitted to go to the other city on Shabbos, meaning that spot where the Erev was going, that he was going to put the Erev down on, becomes his place for Shabbos, so he can go from there another 2,000 cubits, get to the other city. But all the other people of the city who originally sent him to put the Erev down, they can't go. These are Rabbi Yehuda, meaning for them, that Erev, that spot didn't become the place for Shabbos. It's not as if the Erev was put down there for them, and therefore they only have 2,000 cubits from their city where they are, so they can't get to the other city. Now, what is the explanation here? I mean, he didn't put down the food. I mean, he had the food. It's not like he's poor. He wasn't really traveling. He had the food, and he didn't put it down. So why should it work? So according to Rabbi Yehuda says like this, that this person who set out to put down the Erev and just was convinced not to get there, but he set out to put down the Erev, he's considered a traveler. He's not a typical traveler like we had before, but he's a traveler. He's considered that. Halachically, we consider like the person who's traveling. The person who's traveling is permitted, is able to designate that place ahead of him as his place for Shabbos, to be able to go from there another 2,000 cubits on Shabbos. He's a traveler, so he can go ahead and designate that place. Now, it's not like the case is he actually specifically said, that's my place for Shabbos. But being that he was planning on putting down the Erev there for Shabbos, and as they bring that from the Tosfos Yantif, he still wants to be able to go to that other place on Shabbos. Therefore, where he planned on putting down the Erev, that's like designating that place for himself. That's like designating that place as his place for Shabbos. And he's allowed to do that, and he can't do that because he's considered a traveler, because he was traveling out there to put it down. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Meir says like this: anyone who could have put down an Erev and didn't, such as this person, he has the food. He's not poor. He's not a traveler without food. He has the food. And as a matter of fact, he was going to put the Erev down there, but he didn't do so. Hareza Chamra Gamel, which literally translates as, he is the donkey driver, camel driver. So what that means is like this. According to Reb Meir says, look, this person, he had the food. He's not poor, and he's not really a traveler. And therefore, he's not the kind of person who has the permission to designate that Erev without putting food down there, without actually going there. He seemingly is not that person, that kind of person. And therefore, it shouldn't work for him. Even though he wanted to go there and he would like it to work because he still wants to go to another place, he wants to go to another place on Shabbos. Nonetheless, there's an argument to say, look, you had the food, you're not poor, you're not a traveler, you should have put the food down. You didn't, you don't have an Erev. But actually, Meir is mesupik, he's in doubt. He's not sure. Meaning Rabbi Yehuda said before, we look at him as a traveler. But Meir says, not sure about that. Maybe he's a traveler, maybe he's not. Now, if he's a traveler, then he can designate a place from afar. And therefore, like Rabbi Yehuda said, that does become his place for Shabbos. Because since he set out to go there before Shabbos, he's considered the traveler going there, and he now has permission to make it from afar. But maybe he's not a traveler. And if he's not a traveler, then he can't make his Erev from afar. And his Tchum Shabbos, his limits for Shabbos go from where he lives, the city where he lives. So he can't go to the other city. But Reb Meir is in doubt. He's not sure how to look at this person. So if we're in doubt as to whether we should consider him a traveler or not, that means we don't really know where his Erev worked or what became his place for Shabbos. Did what he planned on doing with the Erev in that other place work to make that his place for Shabbos because he's considered a traveler? Well, if that is his place for Shabbos, then his 2,000 cubits are from there. And actually, from his city, he can only go from one direction, towards that place where the Erev is. He can't go in the other directions. But on the other hand, if that Erev there, if that place didn't become his place for Shabbos, then his 2,000 cubits are not from there, it's from his house. And when it comes to going in the direction of where the Erev was meant to be, you can go up to that spot, but not further. And you can't go from that spot any further out, meaning from where the Erev was meant to be. But since where you want to put the Erev, it didn't become your place of residence for Shabbos, the only place you can go is up to there from that one direction from your house. And from that point, you can't go in the other direction. Now, this person, we don't know, where's his place for Shabbos? Is it where he meant to put down the Erev, or is it where he lives? And because of that doubt, there's only one direction. There's only one part where he can go, where we know for sure is included. There's one part, there's one direction, or there's one distance from one point to the other that we know is covered no matter where his place for Shabbos was. And that is from his home to the spot. But any other direction from any of those two spots, we don't know if he has a right to go that way because we don't know where his place for Shabbos was. And therefore, Reb Meir says he can only go between those 2 points because those are the only points that we know are for sure covered no matter where his place for Shabbos is. And Reb Meir calls him a chamer gamel. He calls him a camel driver and a donkey driver. And that's because when you drive a donkey, you drive it from the back. When you lead a camel, you do it from the front. Even if you got both to do at the same time, you can't do both at the same time. You can't do one from behind and one in front at the same time, unless you position yourself between the two of them. You've got the camel in the back, the donkey in the front. If you're between the two of them, you'll be able to do both at the same time. That means you're stuck in between 2 points. That's the way of saying here that you're stuck between 2 points. You can only go from 2 points on Shabbos, between your house and where the Erev would have been. Because since you don't know where your place for Shabbos ended up being, it's only between those 2 points that we know are covered no matter where your place for Shabbos is. And that's the only 2 points you can go to on that Shabbos. From those points in any other direction, you won't be able to go. Have a wonderful day.